Hello, one and all. Firstly, thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. We've got really great attendance, so I'm really excited that hopefully we can get some good messages across to you. I don't know if you can kind of spot a bit about where I am. I'm recording from, those of you that know me, you know that I'm a British guy from the north of England. But my partner Marta is a Barcelona girl, and we're currently in the Barcelona bit. I don't know if you can see behind me. That's not a backdrop. Where is it? That, that's not a back. I can't do it. Why can't I get it to work? That's not a backdrop there. That's the balcony across the way from where we're staying. And yeah, it's kind of weird to be doing this from another country. I don't often do that sort of thing. So hopefully this is all going to work regardless. But hence the kind of interesting flat-based Mediterranean-style backdrop. That's where I am. Look, this revision show. This is absolutely not about exam predictions. Whatever you see from us or don't see from us, I want to make it really, really clear. We don't do exam predictions. That's something that I do not believe in, and I actually judge a little bit when people use that kind of terminology because it's not one that is particularly healthy. What we do, which we're going to show you through the space of this event, is that we look at sort of high impact revision strategies with lots of analysis built in. That's as far as we go. Okay, so please don't judge what we're going to do. With regard to exam predictions, that's not what this is about. We really want to make sure that P departments, and therefore by definition P students, have the opportunity to sort of narrow down any gaps that they have between both content mastery and exam technique. Okay, so both of those kind of pillars are what we are looking to achieve here. What we're going to do is sort of show you an evidence-informed, skills content-based revision system that, most importantly, is already built ready for you to use. Okay, so it's wrapped up, it's ready to go. You teachers out there, you should find that this is pretty convenient for you, and also is a sort of a start to end experience, which hopefully I'm going to share with you this afternoon. My colleagues are with me in the call. We've got Kim, we've got Andy, and we've got Hannah with me. They're my 3P colleagues in the business. They're going to show you different elements of what we do, and we're going to look specifically about how we turn content knowledge into marks in P exams. So it's not just about knowing your stuff, kids, via teachers. It's about being able to apply it into that exam specific environment. So with that in mind, that's going to be the focus. And I'm going to show you a couple of bits and bobs that hopefully are going to take us in that direction. And just by way of familiarization, I just want to make sure that if you're a customer, you know where you're just going to go generally to find the material we're about to show you. Okay, so this is a teacher account here, and quite literally you just go to this revision. You logged in here to the everlearner.com to your account. You go to revision 2026, and behind here there's a load of things you can do. I'm not going to show you the data center today, but it's a brilliant tool. By the way, that's also available just here in case you want to find it there. We'll look at that maybe another time. You can go to legacy revision materials, so 2025, 24, 23 are behind that button if you want to go and have a look at them. But let's just imagine you're an AQA GCSE PE centre for a moment. You would go into here, and what you've now got is you've got access to download your exam infographic, which we're going to go over in a lot of detail today, but I'll just quickly show you. It looks a bit like this. You may or may not be familiar, but that's there. So you can go and download your infographic from here. It's got the holding places for the live shows, and as you can see here, it's got the student revision notes, the teacher revision notes, the mock exam, the online version of the mock exam, and the mock exam mark scheme. So all of that is going to be added to this page, ready for you. So this as a sort of one-stop place that does it all. This is the place you need to go. And by the way, folks, if I just go into the equivalent space for a student, this is a student here, they've got exactly the same button on the left hand side there, but if they click into here, the difference for them, they go into AQA GCSE PE 9 to 1, and just notice that the difference for them is they can only access the student notes and they can access the mock exam, not the mark scheme. It's your job as the teacher to release the mark scheme to them as you see fit. So we're not giving it to them to begin with, it's there for when you want to release it to them. And colleagues, let's fly into this. Look, you can get hold of us in any of these ways. I'll show you how you can email us later on as well. I've mentioned my 3 colleagues who are in the call at the moment as well. You can chat with those in the live chat. That's ready to go. But this is what we're looking to do. We want to raise P results this year. That's our job. We want to look at the science of effective revision. And with that in mind, these are the 3 kind of things I really want you to take away here. As I said already, not about exam predictions. It is about, however, revision strategies which work and they're ready to use. It is about a complete system, so you are ready to go, so you don't have to necessarily think, okay, I've got a ton of things that I've got to do to prep this. You've just got some decisions to make more than anything, and you've got some dedicated exam technique training it's ready to use, and I'll show you that in a few moments time. Now, with that in mind, folks, we know today that the science of effective revision, in our case ready to use, is about three things. It is about spacing, it is about retrieval, and it is about feedback and acting upon that feedback. And we've got this thing here: successful revision programs will occur over months. And what we want to show you here with our revision resources, which, by the way, as I mentioned already, if you're a customer, you are good to go. You're golden. You're ready to go. Our revision resources are built to achieve these things, and especially that first one, the spacing effect. Let's go back to this sort of concept of revision happening over a period of weeks, not days, not months. This connects it to exactly why we exist as a business. Our resources are built around these ideas, but crucially, we need to stress content alone is not enough. Students also need to understand what the exam is asking them, what analyze means versus evaluate, how to structure a 9 marker, a 6 marker, a 15 marker, an AQA level, a 20 marker, an OCR level paper, whatever it happens to be. And we need to start thinking about these. Now, with that in mind, that content not being enough, we want to look at two foundations of PE exam success. We believe, let me go back a bit, sorry. We believe that effective PE and sport revision relies upon that content mastery and good exam technique. We must revise both. PE students must revise both. Sports students must revise both. So this is what we are putting forward to you in essence, folks. We are putting forward to you a content mastery offer. Now, you guys will be familiar with this. You'll know we provide topic knowledge. You'll know that our revision is key concepts and vocabulary. You'll know that infographics will establish historic patterns and examples, and you've got that through infographics, hot topics, national mock exams, live shows, teacher and student notes. There's no question that content mastery is there. But the other additional element of this, which you might be less familiar with, is we want students to clearly understand command words, to clearly understand how their paper is structured and what kind of questions they might get and how to respond to them, how to manage their time, how to go about structuring their answers, how to process a paper from literally having it in front of them, filling their name out, turning the front cover, knowing what to do first, second, third, and fourth. And we have built the PE exam technique course powered by the roadmap for specifically that purpose. So here's the thing: we see students who know the content really well, but still miss marks because they don't understand what, say, justify means, or they run out of time on longer questions. We're going to argue here, in many PE departments, exam technique is either squeezed into that last couple of weeks or hoped for want of a better word. We have tried to change that, and our revision ecosystem includes both pillars, content and the foundations of how to apply that content in the exam. And obviously we're going to look at that, and my colleague's going to show you that in due course. So let's just think just for a second about the timing of all of this. You're going to see all these resources imminently. My colleague's going to show you them, but just so you know where we are, we're doing this in January 2026. You already have the infographics and hot topics. Maybe they're in your hand right now. If they're not, they can be. They're available to download right now live. February 2026, we're releasing the national mock exams and the mark schemes into the platform, ready for you to use, to download, and we'll look at usage cases in a second. From February through to March, you're then going to get course-based resources such as hot topic checkpoints released to you. This is specific checkpoints that focus only on hot topics. These are, for example, short mini exams, what we call centralized exam templates via Exam Simulator, allowing teachers to set hot topic focused exams again and again for their students ready to use. Then March to April, we're going to have student and teacher revision notes. We're going to show you what they are in a few months' time, but they're going to be released sort of weeks before the actual live sessions. Then the live sessions occur April to June in that period of time. So we've got this gradual, and if we go back to what I showed you on the screen earlier, which is, those series of resources on the teacher revision page, you can see when those are going to start to be populated from here. Now, there's a few ways to sort of reflect on this timeline here, but one of the ways, it feels quite content mastery, and absolutely we're bringing that to you. But absolutely pivotally, what I want you to be aware of is right now the PE exam technique course is available direct from the platform, and you're going to get to see it in a few moments' time, don't worry. And the whole idea is the students can take it any point from now until the exam itself. So for example, what order to answer the paper, how to evaluate or analyze, how to give examples and score on typically 802. It really embeds that kind of spacing and retrieval across both pillars, not just, if I go back upwards, not just the content mastery pillar, but that exam techniques foundation pillar as well. That's what that course is about, and we really want you to start to have a look at that, and Andy's specifically going to show you a bit more about that in a few moments time. Now, I've mentioned already, and I'll hand over to Andy any second, but I've mentioned already this sort of idea, the idea of a content mastery ecosystem. You sort of get a bit of a sense of that with an exam technique foundation, and we want to urge PE colleagues to use both our revision tools and our exam technique course. Both best results come from both content and metacognitive strategies. And if we go back to that exam technique course, at its heart, it is a metacognitive mechanism which allows students to understand not just their content and what they need to learn, but also how to apply that in the assessment environment. So with that in mind, I'm going to ask Andy to take you through the infographics, the hot topics, and some command words, and he's also going to give you your first sort of introduction to the exam technique course as well, which is available to our gold tier members. I'll mention more about that later on in this session.
Thank you, James. I'm Andy, and I'm going to be taking us through some of the revision resources that we've put together as part of our 2026 package. And the first thing that I'm going to show you is the infographics, and we've got an example on the screen here from AQA GCSE PE paper 2. Now, our infographics are produced as a summary of all the analysis work that we do as a Never Learner team, where we go through each course and each paper and each question on a granular level to make sure that we have accurate data in terms of the trends within each course and within each paper. So for AQA GCSE PE paper 2, we can see here we've got at the top the number of marks and the length of the paper, but we've also got the number of marks per minute that the students need to work towards. Then we have a summary of the most examined topics and the number of marks that have been allocated to those topics since the 2018 papers. So we can see classification of skill is a classic in itself, in that it is assessed very heavily historically within paper 2 for AQA GCSE. Now, in terms of student revision of content, we believe this is really important, but equally important is students' understanding of the exam skills and the command words that the examiners are asking them to use within the exam. So we also have a breakdown of the command words and the skills that the students need. So we can see identify, explain and describe are particularly important skills for paper 2 for AQA GCSE. In terms of honing those skills, we've launched this year the PE exam technique course, which is part of our gold package, and I will show you some of that a little bit later on and how that package works. And that works alongside and is powered by our roadmap resources, which some of you may be familiar with, and those resources are on the platform for students to really go in and learn how to answer particular questions that are phrased in a particular way. Underneath as well, we've also got a historical mark allocation, so we can see that 4 markers are particularly prevalent on AQA GCSE PE paper 2, and historically which command words are used regularly and the trends within that. So we can see identify questions has an upward trend since 2024, whereas explain questions are on a slight downward trend here, so some interesting analysis there too. Lastly, and importantly, we've also got the average number of marks allocated to each AO or assessment objective. So we can see 32 marks historically given to AO1, 26 to AO2 and 20 to AO3. And these are really important in terms of student understanding of how questions are broken down. And for example, AO2 giving applied examples, and AO3 making sure they've got that element of evaluation and analysis. So the next stage of our revision resources, once we've done our analysis work, is to produce 10 hot topics for each paper. And the example for AQA GCSE PE paper 2 you can see on the screen. Now, in terms of selecting these 10 hot topics, we go into the data in quite a lot of detail, and we tend to, in terms of the logic of selecting these topics, look at topics that have been examined frequently in historic papers or have carried historically lots of marks. We look at topics that have a tendency to be part of extended writing questions, And we also look at topics that perhaps have been assessed regularly in the past but have had a pause for a year or two. Now, through selecting these topics, what we're asking students to do is to overlearn these topics for your exams. We're not saying that you shouldn't revise other topics as well, and we are certainly not using these as exam predictions. It's nigh on impossible for us as a team to predict what questions will and won't come up in an exam paper. However, through using the comprehensive analysis that we've done, we feel that these topics are ones that are worth the students overlearning, and being able to also use these topics with the AO3 type command words, so being able to analyse them, being able to evaluate them, and so on and so forth. So through using these hot topics, the students can then focus their revision a little bit more. And what I'm going to now take you on to is to look at our exam technique course, which focuses on the other part of our revision, which is to look at exam skills and exam technique. So our 2026 revision package has two strands to it. One of those strands is for the students to overlearn and to hone their skills on specific topics and their base knowledge. But we believe it's equally as important that the students hone their skills on exam technique and understanding the command words that appear in each paper. As a result of that, we've put together the PE exam technique powered by the roadmap course, which is available to our gold customers and can be found on the site. Within the course, of the roadmap, students are able to access resources which will help them not only with command words but also with the understanding of how the papers are structured. So there are lessons and there are practice quizzes and there are tests for students to do, which they can work through independently, or equally teaching staff can set these as assignments for the students. They also, as part of the roadmap section, which some of you may be familiar with, have updated resources where they can go in and they can look at particular command words within each exam, and they can watch one of James's tutorials, again do quizzing and test themselves on being able to hone those skills. These resources are metacognitive in their nature, and they will allow students to go into the exam hall feeling confident that when they turn the paper over and they see a particular command word within a question, they are able to tackle that confidently and be able to control the content concisely so that they address exactly the command word that is being asked of them. We hope these resources are really useful, and we're really excited about the students using these as part of their revision programme.
Thanks, Andy, for this. The infographics and hot topics really are so useful in helping with revision planning, and also, I suppose, helping to guide students to the areas to overlearn. I'm going to spend a few minutes now talking a bit more about our national mock exams, which hopefully you can see on screen. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Hannah. I'm another PE teacher at the Everlearner. So we've got this paper here on screen, AQA GCSE paper 2, but we're actually producing about 27 different national mock exams. So chances are yours should be covered. And what's really, really exciting this year is that we've added on our IBDP SEHS mocks to our offer. So hopefully if you study or you teach those courses even, you will be able to access that. So each specific mock, if I scroll down, each specific mock has been created and is aligned with the real exam papers. So the papers that are produced by the exam board, this should look very similar. We have used both our data analysis and our linguistic analysis to ensure the mock exam that you guys receive is an accurate representation of each exam board and also the level. So they will clearly mirror both the format and demand of the actual exams. So you can see here it starts with the multiple choice questions, the 1 marks, and we can scroll down, keep seeing all of them, and then it gets on to the 1 mark questions, 3 mark questions, and so on. Let's just scroll down a bit faster so you can see all the different types of questions. If I scroll right down to the end, here you go. You've got the extended writing, so the 6 mark, and then you've got the 9 mark as well. Obviously, if you're Edexcel, you will get a 9, or Edexcel GCSE, you'll get a 9 mark evaluate. If you're doing or teaching the AQA A level, you'll get the 8, the 15, the appropriate marks for your extended writing. They're all included. Andy also mentioned the hot topics. So you will find each hot topic represented within our exam papers. So all 10. I'm scrolling up here to find this question here, all about a balanced diet. And for those of you that have got a good memory, hot topic 8 for AQA GCSE PE paper 2 is the reasons for a balanced diet. So you can see that is represented in this question, and all the other hot topics will appear throughout the paper. Having an exam board aligned mock is really important. We know that. We know it's really valuable. We also know you guys want a mark scheme. You want to be able to mark it, and we're just kind enough to produce that for you. So here is our mark scheme. So for every question, you will get a really clear marking breakdown. So the multiple choice ones are going to be clear. If we scroll down to a meatier question, you can see it just here. You get the marking guidance, so it talks about how to mark, but then you get the marking points. And we've also written which assessment objective it is for each marking point, which we know is really important. So you've got these. Oh, also, let me show you before I forget. Stop scrolling and scroll properly. For the extended writing, we do produce both the extended writing marks. So you can see just here for the 6, let's go down to the 9. So you've got all of them, but we've also got the level guidance as well. So the level descriptors can be found by clicking that link. Really, really valuable. Finally, we've got this new mark scheme, or we've got this new exam paper for you guys. Very exciting. But how are you actually going to use it? So we would suggest setting for your students a formal mock in either March or April. If you have an annual subscription with us, bonus, you can use our auto indicative marking, and if they complete it online, it will help you to mark it nice and quickly. The beauty of this is that you get some amazing statistics, and I mean, we love data as teachers, but you get these statistics that highlight the strengths, highlight the areas of improvement, and again, not just for the content, but also for the command words as well. So it might highlight that a student, let's scroll down, is really struggling with, define's not the one they're going to be struggling with explain. So they might be struggling with that, and it might highlight that to you and also to the students. And as Andy said, this is really valuable when it comes to developing that exam technique. If you've got the gold subscription, then you can immediately target that explain, and they can be watching how to explain. They can doing testing to know the kind of things they need to be saying in order to explain and maybe not describe it. Those are the two that we often see getting confused. So that is really valuable. Another really good thing that I would recommend actually is that James has written a really useful blog. It was back in 2025, but still really relevant today. It's on 8 different ways to use the national mock exams. Hopefully you are seeing a link on the screen now, a QR code. Do scan it and you will be able to read it. Really, really valuable ways to do to present these national mock exams for your students. And finally, the entire paper and the mark schemes are downloadable, so students can be doing them on paper, but they are also available online and they'll be ready to be used from February.
Thanks, Hannah. I'm Kim. I'm going to be taking you through the live revision shows and our student and teacher notes that will be available to you this year. If you've not seen our revision calendar already, here it is on the screen. We will be sending this out at the end of the webinar as well. So our sessions run all the way through from April, the IBDP being the first session ahead of the exam, and then all the way through May, and finally finishing in June with the OCR A-level paper 3 being the final exam. So all of these sessions contain our student and teacher notes that will be available to you live or on demand immediately after each session has taken place. So you can watch it live, watch along with your students. The notes are designed to be completed alongside the sessions, but also they can be used on demand. You can use them in chunks, and I'll show you what they will look like in a little bit more detail. So let's have a quick look at the teacher notes that we'll be using in our live revision sessions. So here, James will talk us through, in this case, hot topic 5, which is commercialisation, sponsorship in the media. He'll take us through some of the content, but it's really important, obviously at this stage, that students are pretty familiar with the content. So he will focus really on the skill requirements and really focusing on the AO1, AO2 and AO3 skills. So all of these questions here are taken from our national mock exam, and they'll focus in on student activities like processing a question, making sure they're in a really strong position to go and write a model answer, a perfect answer to secure these marks. So all of this that you're seeing here is provided for the teacher. So all the teacher needs to do, minimal prep, maximum impact in terms of your revision programs. They can follow along, but they've got a completed version of the notes that the students will have. So the students will complete their notes, and this is really about resourcing the teacher to best support their students to get the most from the sessions. And remember, you can watch it all in one go during a revision session, watch it live. You can also use this and use it as individual chunks and catch up afterwards. And the students as well can watch this at home and use it on demand as it suits them. So here's what the student notes will look like as part of the live revision session. This is what the students will be completing alongside the session. And remember, the students can switch to the platform at any point as well. So if they're particularly struggling, let's say with commercialisation or maybe on something like diet or somatotype, they can go and quickly watch the video as a recap, do some practice quizzing, and then have a go at these questions again. And similarly, as Andy mentioned earlier, if they are struggling with a particular command word and the demands of that type of question, they can go and dip into the exam technique course and then come back to their notes. So this essentially builds up like a personal revision resource for the students to use. So you will see here exactly the same structure as the teacher notes, but obviously this one is only partly annotated. So here, this is left blank for the student to answer. They've got a few prompts, they've got a few bits in terms of model answers here, but they can go and mark them alongside James as it goes through the session. And then they have got a model answer here. For example, the 6-mark question is broken down into AO1, AO2 and AO3. And they've also got here a little bit of revision preparation that they can use to sort of tick when they've gone through these types of questions. So for example, on this 6-mark question, we focused in on the audience and spectators, but they might actually want to switch the question up and go and look at performers or officials. So as a teacher as well, the advantage of using this is that it gives you loads of ideas of different questions that you can generate without really needing to do any prep at all.
So that's really helpful from the guys there. Thank you to initially Andy, then Hannah, then Kim. And just before we move on, I just want to summarise what we're talking about here. We are talking about this fully coordinated ecosystem where content mastery and exam technique are married together. We're going to look at a few more points on that in a second. The hot topics and the infographics, they tell students what to revise, what to revise. Of course, it's everything, we all accept that. The live sessions and notes show them how to answer the mocks, let them practice and get feedback in addition to all of our other resources as well. And the exam technique course, it gives them the foundations in command words, question types, paper processing, and everything else to make it all stick and make it count in the exam itself. And just a reminder for our gold subscribers, this is included completely. Bronze and silver get all of the revision content and live shows, but gold also get that exam technique pillar, and that's what we want you guys to be thinking about, that unlocking of those marks. One could ask the question, that's all well and good, James, but so what? How do we actually go about doing this? How do we implement this stuff? Because it's not just about having resources, right? Look, first of all, your options are almost endless, and I'm sure you guys will come up with some really, really interesting models for how to roll out this revision that maybe we haven't thought about with the resources that we've put forward. But we're going to suggest to you that there's a minimum of 3 ways to use this. We're calling them the full wrap, the selective boost, the interleaved approach. Now, you can blend all of these together. You can take elements of one and apply them to another. You can create something completely new. But this is what we want to look for. Full wrap for whole cohorts, selective boost for intervention groups, interleave for lesson by lesson revision work. There are many ways that you could use this revision, no question about that. Keep those options open, of course, but just 3 maybe nods towards a couple of options you might just have as strategic choices. The first one is what we call the full wrap. And I suppose this is from start to finish what we kind of hope in some ways that teachers might do with our revision materials. I mean, you don't have to, but it probably shows you why we build them this way. So that's the idea of right now in January, we launch the infographics and the hot topics. You can get those out to students, discuss those with the students. Obviously here with the exam technique course, if you're you're a gold member, you've got immediately the capacity to go and work on exam skills. But what you're going to have, no matter what tier you have, or indeed if you purchase the revision package, is that between February and May, we're releasing the mock exams in February. You've got the national mock exams for practice and assessment guided by the teacher. So you can use those as mock exams, you can use those as practice exams, as walking, talking mocks, all kind of announced to unannounced assessments, all kinds of different things. Then in spring, you've got attendance at the live shows, recordings afterwards with the notes that are taking place. And then, of course, pre-exam after our revision show, you can run your own in-class revision with the students, reinforce weak skills via the on-demand course, especially if you're a gold subscriber. But obviously, you can do that follow-up to the revision show. You've got the revision notes, the teacher versions that help with that. Now, that's what we imagine is ideal. But of course, there's other ways of looking at this. Model 2 is what we call the selective boost. Identify, using our national mock exam, actual intervention groups. Have you got students who are in that 3-4 borderline, who are not quite reaching that B at A level, who are only achieving a pass on your course, on your examined unit, for example? So what we're saying here is use the NME as a diagnostic tool and then look at the gaps. And then obviously, if for all of you, you can then direct students to relevant live shows as intervention. They can get stuck into those hot topics. If you're a gold tier member, you'd also obviously have the diagnostic of the skills as mentioned previously, and you'd be able to go and have the students actually go and learn how to explain, how to analyse, how to evaluate, how to justify whatever it happens to be. And then down here, you've got the teach notes to help you run small group intervention sessions with the students. So that's more kind of selecting a handful of students out and doing the equivalent. And the third approach, I think this one's a really interesting one, which is the interleave approach, and that is the idea that you drip feed the questions of the NME, maybe via hot topics, one hot topic at a time perhaps, and over the course of a number of weeks use 1 or 2 national mock exam questions as retrieval starters. You're doing that bit by bit by bit by bit, working on those exam skills. Of course, if you're a gold tier member, you can support that with the key skills. Then April to May, you're attending the live show as a whole class, and then in your post show lessons, you're doing segments of the live recording, and you're spreading those hot topics over a period of time. We think that's really going to achieve that spacing effect. Don't forget that if you're a gold tier member, obviously that exam technique course is going to help you not just diagnose the key skills, but also to address the key skills. Now, a couple of things if you're wondering about bandings and tiers. If you're a bronze tier subscriber, you've got access to all of the infographics, hot topics, national mock exams, live revision shows, and teacher and student notes. That's all yours. Difference for the silver tier is you guys have got the exam simulator access as well. That means that you've got the hot topics practice exams, and of course you've got the online national mock exam, which you can you can use as many times as you want to in that environment. Then in your gold tier here, folks, you have got everything from the revision packet. You've got everything from the infographics, the hot topics, the national mock exams, the live shows, the teacher student notes, the exam simulated content that I've just mentioned here, and of course you've got access to the PE exam technique powered by the roadmap course. That is a big distinguishing factor from that silver and bronze tier. We believe that our USP is exactly the following with regard to revision. We think that a lot of revision offers out there are dumps of content, facts and figures to memorize, effectively reteaching. We are trying to teach the students the skills along with the content. One could even argue the skills via the content, and we design it around those assessment objectives, which you can obviously see from what Kim showed. It's, if unclear on anything, you can dip back into the roadmap to see that command word taught. So let's say, for example, you've got a student who's struggling on the explain command, missing lots of AO2. The student can go and work on that specific element. It's the marriage of content mastery and exam technique. That's what we're looking to achieve, my friends. Okay, so a couple of practical things. If you need to upgrade your account, so for example, maybe you're sitting on a silver, you're sitting on a bronze, and you want to upgrade to gold, you can reach out to any of Andy, Hannah, and Kim, and they will support you with that. Their information is there on the screen for you. Okay, so get hold of those and do that. Also, can we stress that if you're an attendee of this session, which of course by definition you are, you also receive that 15% webinar attendee discount. Okay, so obviously we have records of every single registrant. We know who's registered for the show, and the other thing you can do is simply come back to us. We're going to do the follow-up email tomorrow if you're attending this live with the recording and so on, but you can simply reply to that email and look to get that 15% discount on the upgrade, which by the way is very, very sensibly priced in and of itself. So finally from me, folks, a bit of a competition before we go into question and answer. Into the chat now is a link which hopefully allows you the chance to win. Sorry about my phone beep in the background there. So there should be a link in the chat now which is going to take you to a post which gives you an opportunity to win a bit of a prize. So if that's of interest, that would be brilliant to get your click into there, follow the instructions, and you guys can find yourself with some nice little freebies and what have you. Well, folks, there we go. So hopefully, let me just change my screen there a little bit. It's got a little bit dark around me, crikey. Well, it is that time of year. It is, well, here where I am, as I said earlier on, I'm in Spain at the moment, Catalonia, technically. And it's been an interesting day today. I'm going to get some questions, I promise, in a second. But we've had a nightmare today because one of our experiences when you try and live stream to YouTube from a location that's not your typical one, obviously I'm normally in the UK, YouTube gets very suspicious, which is kind of reassuring in a sense, but I literally got hoofed out for a week of not being able to access YouTube, so the teams had to kind of rally around just to put this stream on today. We really didn't think it was going to happen at one point, so kind of relieved that we got a session together at least this afternoon. So let me get to a couple of questions. Before I do that, Hannah's asked me to just remind again with regard to the competition. She's asked me to say that if you follow that link, if you follow the link that she put into the chat and go and do that bit on social, you can either win a free revision package for non-subscribers, or you can receive a free upgrade for current customers. So just bear that one in mind, that's hopefully relevant for some folks out there. Last thing before we do the Q&A, can I also, as I've completely forgot earlier, can I also ask you to like the YouTube video as if it's a video? Obviously it's a live stream at this very moment, but put the like. And if you would offer us a subscribe to the YouTube channel, see there we've got 18.3 thousand YouTube subscribers. We're actually targeting 20,000 before the end of the revision this year. I'm sure we'll achieve that, but that would be brilliant if you're able to do it. So thank you in advance for that. Now, with that in mind, let me jump over to the questions. We've got a question here we've got from colleague... sorry, one last thing. I did mean to do a shout out to everyone who's obviously in the chat, but Hannah specifically asked me to give a shout out to the schools in Bedford because it's where she went to school, and I think, correct me if I get the terminology wrong, Hannah, but you went to Bedford Girls' School, I believe, who are represented here this afternoon, back in the day, not that it's that long ago, a little while, but yeah. But anyway, so we got a question here. How does the exam technique course fit with my scheme of work? Well, I think it's a brilliant question. We would definitely encourage you to incorporate the exam technique into your schemes of work for your GCSE, your A-level, your BTEC, your Cambridge National. I think that would be really, really valuable to do. The other thing I think that really needs stressing here is I think it's a very, basically the two chapters of that course. The first chapter are what to do with a PE exam, lots of different things, how to think about different questions, how to go about multiple choices, what to do when you first turn the page and what you should do first, second and third. All of those things are really valuable, in my opinion, for every student to study. And I would recommend probably, let's say you're working with your 10s and 11s in either BTEC, Cambridge National, or GCSE, apply it to A-level if you're with the sixth formers. But I would be recommending that is a point between year 10 and 11, that they learn that specific set of material. Then the other stuff, which is like all of the command words, I would say that's more based on a diagnostic implementation. So you do probably want the students to study all of that, but if you've got students who are struggling to explain, to evaluate, to justify, they should be returning back to those skill sets in that area. That would be my recommendation in there. Can students access the exam technique partway through the year? Absolutely. So it's available as part of your subscription whenever you're doing that. And it says, I think the same person here, is gold tier only for revisional year round. It's for the whole year round. So that's part of an annual subscription. It says here, what's your top tip for implementing a revision resource as part of my revision program for my GCSE and A-level students? Okay, well, this is my personal opinion. My top tip would be, it's my opinion, and I think it's a reasonable thing to say, that revision should be starting about now, even if it's just gradual little things, such as, right, students, let's stop, let's have this stop and take stock moment, let's look at the infographic, let's look at the hot topics, what do we think about this, what strategies can we build off the back of this, then building in from that February, I'm going for that full wrap model really, but then building in that national mock exam
Personally, I would use it as an assessment. My personal methodology would be to use it as an exam, not necessarily a mock, but to use it as an exam, as an assessment. And then, once I've got the feedback back to the students, sometime in the next 2 weeks after that point, I would place that exam on the students again without an announcement, simply to tell them in the next 14 days you're going to do that exam again, be ready, be ready. And then in the 10-15 minutes before they sit the unannounced second version of the exam, I would get them to be looking back at my feedback from the first one. And then, of course, my opinion is attendance with me to the live shows in the classroom. Probably, of course, they can access it from home via their account, that's fine. And then I would be reviewing their revision notes from the live show with my own teacher notes, just to make sure we've got like full understanding, some kind of perfect vessel for understanding those 10 hot topics. So I would look at something like that. But that's just my opinion. Obviously, different people would do it different ways. So from Sophie, I've got, hi, are there going to be any strategies, or is this a platform? So Sophie, the strategies, if you, and by the way, you can do this with the live show, if you go back to those 3 deployment model slides, that would be where I would recommend you having a look at. And by the way, is it a platform? If you're not familiar with our website, that would be a brilliant thing for you to familiarize yourself with. So it's theeverlearner.com, and we have got full courses for all kinds of different qualification PE and sport, and I would urge you to go and have a look at those. It says here from Kate, can students sign up to this individually? So if we consider, for example, okay, I don't know if you're asking that from a parental perspective or a student or a teacher perspective, but let's assume it's a teacher's perspective first, then I'll answer the others. So if it's from a teacher perspective, the best way to do this is for the school to have that subscription and then to have the students engage. You can obviously have the revision package specifically, but what that would then allow is a choice of how the students take the revision. So once you've got that access as the teacher, let's say you're a GCSE or an A-level PE teacher, once you've got that access, you can have the session, when the session goes live, or indeed the recording afterwards, you can watch that all together and sort of consume that together, or you can instruct the students, hey, it's on at this time, this day, you need to watch it, go log into the website, go to your revision button, it's there, it's streamed, or as a recording afterwards. You can do it that way too. If you're literally an individual student, what I'm going to suggest there for you, Kate, is if you reach out to my colleague, her name is Marta, M-A-R-T-A. The email address is exactly the same as you saw on the screen a few moments ago, marta@theeverlearner.com, and she helps with individual subscriptions. What are the main, I've got another question here. It's actually come via Kim, I'm not sure who from, so apologies to the person, I'm not sure of your name. But what are the main differences between the revision package and an annual subscription? So to be very, very clear, folks, if you take a revision package with us, you get access to the revision materials full stop. Okay, so it doesn't give you access to AQA, GCSE, PE, OC or A-level, BTEC, Sport and Exercise Science, Unit 2, Unit 3, whatever it happens to be. So it's very much designed to be in the lead up to the exams. It is not a sort of a week by week learning program over the cycle of that period. The other thing is that the revision package doesn't come with the skill component we've been talking about this afternoon. But you get access to the infographics and hot topics for your courses. You get access to the national mock exams and mark schemes. You get access to the student and teacher notes. You get access to the revision sessions and recording. Sorry for my phone going off as part of that. But so it gets you that, but it doesn't get you access to the main platform and the remainder of the main platform. So that's the main thing you need to be considering. I've got another one here. I know we're talking PE specific here, but does other subjects have the same level of support in regards to the exam technique support? So, very good question, colleague. The answer, ultimately, it's very difficult in these situations just to say an outright no, but we have built that course is definitely a PE exam technique course. So I'm wondering if, colleague, you're asking that question from a senior leadership perspective, or perhaps you teach multiple things, or perhaps you've found your way here and you teach entirely something else. At the moment, that course is focused purely on PE exam technique. Now, is that vastly different from many other things? No, but we are definitely designing that course for PE exam technique. And I'm going to say something here that goes towards the political. Forgive me, this is nothing more than an opinion, and I hope this is a reasonable thing to say. But we really believe that as a qualification PE as a subject can sort of become like the last on the what is it, the first or the last rung of the ladder, whichever one's like the least considered. And we're trying to get that priority right to the start, right as the first priority, so hence that. What I would say to you is you might want to look at the roadmap and the roadmap writing frame, specifically that resource, that download, that pack that's available in our free resources. And if you take that, that is for all subjects. So hopefully that would be a reasonable answer to that question. And I've got, that was from Craig. So Craig, thank you very much. I know a few Craigs in PE, so I'm wondering which Craig that might be. I've a couple of Craigs that spring to mind. I'm not sure if you're the Craigs I'm thinking of. So with that in mind, I'll just keep an eye on whether other questions come in. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to sort of start to wind down, as it were. You guys have kindly given me 45 or some bunch of minutes of your time on a Monday afternoon, you crazy people. Thank you very much for that. I really, really do appreciate it. I'm going to say a big thank you to my colleagues in order, Andy, Hannah and Kim, who presented their session so well earlier on. Please reach out to us if you've got questions about the revision. We are here, the email addresses. You probably have our contacts anyway, but that would come in. Here's Craig from Castle Newman in Bedford. Hannah tells me. So Craig from Castle Newman, great to see you. Hannah, you might have to remind me of that pub and restaurant I've been to in Bedford. That's a nice place, that. I can't remember its name, though, so if you got a chance to remind me. Anyway, that's a whole aside. So, thanks to everyone for being part of this. If I can tell you that the relief to even have got a session out tonight is absolutely massive. It really was hairy earlier on. We were really concerned. And I shall wish everyone an absolutely magnificent and wonderful Monday evening. Myself and Marta, to sort of try and de-stress a little bit. We're going to go straight out from here. We've made some sandwiches. We're going to walk from where we're staying in the middle of Barcelona. By the way, it sounds kind of posh. This is where Marta's from. We're just spending time with family. But we're going to walk from the city centre up to an area called Gracia, for those of you that have been in Barcelona before. And we're going to go and find a quiet spot and eat a sandwich and have a nice walk, just to try and clear the mind a little bit. So I'll put a holding screen on temporarily as we finish here. The chat will stay open until it's not, as it were. And I'll wish you all a wonderful Monday evening, a wonderful week, and a wonderful January. And from my heart, thank you as always for being brilliant colleagues, brilliant supporters of our work. And I wish you the absolute best. Let me make sure I get this absolutely correct. Have a great evening, folks.